P.1391-1413, yeah. Might even be the picture on 1393.
Found a better one for 1401.
Okay.
Where?
1401.
I changed the control arm on Friday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
On what?
I can't remember the car, I just know.
Oh, okay. Was it because the bushings were worn out?
The control arms were worn out, so
Yeah.
I put in some new ones.
Yeah, sometimes if the bushings are worn out, they just give you a whole control arm. You don't even change the bushings on some of them.
Good Audi R8.
I said I could have drove an Audi R8.
I don't think they let you drive over there.
Good drive.
No, I'm not saying you first, I'm just saying like in general let us drive.
You don't got nothing on your record?
I'm clean. I'm not tickets, no anything. Thank God. Knock on wood.
You like me got 10 speeding tickets.
You got 10 speeding tickets?
Or something.
What?
You're lying. You're driving.
You telling the truth?
You shouldn't be on the road, bro.
I want to run, bro.
What'd he say?
You see one on chicks? And that tracks.
Nah. I mean, yeah, bro, what? I ain't gonna lie, this shit. I don't know what they want to do, bro. Yeah, are they pointing at the boats?
Number 6 is pointing in
You're
2
wrong.
spots.
What happens if you get pulled over and then you do something like crazy, like
The
speeding,
same thing, just
and then you get like your
separate.
license suspended or you can't drive for this amount of months or something?
You're gonna
What does that
need.
affect you in like your job? You just can't drive cars around?
Well,
Still
I'll tell you,
use-
if you have to have a valid driver's license to work at the dealer.
Valid?
Yep.
Well, like, what if your license gets suspended for like
Then
2
you
months
get suspended.
from work?
You can't be a technician unless you have a driver's license. You have to drive cars. You would have to take that up with them if something happened, but I can tell you, I've seen it happen before where somebody has done something stupid, lost their driver's license, and then they're on restricted duty, or they put them somewhere else in the dealer because they can't insure them. They can't let you get in a car. They can't let you get behind the wheel of the car because their insurance won't cover you. So if something happens then, they're in trouble, and they're not gonna let that happen.
What do you have to do in order to get that far to lose your driver's license or suspend it?
be dumb.
Like how dumb? Like what exactly?
DUI.
Like a
Reckless
DUI,
driving,
something like that.
DUI.
Or get so many tickets that you have so many points on their license that they suspend it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could be simple ass tickets too, like parking tickets. My brother got his license taken away from parking tickets. He just never fucking paid them. He had a lot of them, just never paid them off, nothing.
Oh my God.
I think I got them all, maybe.
I'm like, is 1 and 3 pointing at the same thing?
1 and 3. No, 3 is pointing at the ball joint. 1 is pointing at the bushing. 2 is the shaft. 4 is spindle. 5 is the only one I'm confused on, and I think that's the bumper. 6 is lower arm A. I think. I hope so. But if not, I'm thinking 6 is still a bushing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're pointing at there. It looks like the control arm bushings to me.
Yeah, so 6 is bushings too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Let me look at this picture here. Yep. Looks like
And
the
then
same
7,
picture,
that's
yeah.
just the spring.
Yep, upper and lower control arm, spring,
Can we go through 'em?
strut rods.
Do you have the answers for this?
No, I'm just looking at the
Oh.
picture.
So
Yeah.
what
There's,
is,
there's no answer sheet for it.
Okay.
It's just find it in the book.
what is one?
What is one?
Yeah.
That's
Upper
the-
control arm bushings, it looks like, because it's pointing two places. So you got upper control arm bushings, lower control arm bushings for 1 and 6.
Upper,
And then 7 would be the lower control arm, and 2, I guess, would be the upper control arm with their spring. I'm not sure sometimes what these are pointing to.
What's 2?
What is 2? What's 2 pointing at? It's kind of hard for me to tell.
And how did you expect us to do this?
Well, hopefully your eyes are better than mine.
2, I think it's the shaft where it looks like it's pointing at. It looks like it's
Mhm.
pointing at that bar between the bushings.
Mhm.
So I think that's the shaft.
Upper control arm.
Just color the shaft.
It doesn't specify the shaft, it just says shaft.
What's 3?
3 is the ball joint.
3. It's gonna be an upper ball joint. Yeah. Yep.
Joint 4 is spindle.
And 5 is
Yeah.
gonna be lower ball joint, I'm sure. 4 is gonna be the spindle, or sometimes called the knuckle.
On the picture on 1393, it looks like it's pointing to the bumper.
Bumper, 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 bumper.
Or is that the link?
No, I'm thinking
We're
5
looking at
is
19 or 1393.
yeah.
13.
Yeah, 1393. If you're looking at 5, it looks like it's pointing to the bumper.
Hmm.
But then again, it has the whole rotor on there, so you can't really see what's behind it. That one doesn't have the rotor on here.
Right.
What's 6?
6. What is 6? Lower control arm bushing. Yeah.
7 is a spring?
I can't tell. I'm guessing 7. Yeah, 7 is a spring. Yeah, I see it.
It's,
now.
it's
Yep.
just called spring, that's it.
Coil
Yep, that's it.
spring,
Coil spring, yeah.
coil, whatever.
Yep. Coil spring. Yep. I think that should cover it.
Want me to hold it for you so we can model it?
What page are we?
It should be
Alright.
a couple pages back.
See what we can find out about this. What is the purpose of a suspension system?
To ride smoother.
You're right.
Yeah. You got, that's what keeps the body and the chassis suspended from keeping dragging on the ground or whatever, right?
Yep.
Your steering, your suspension, all that stuff, gotta have that. Various types. Looks a lot how coil, leaf, torsion bar springs work. There's a whole bunch of different suspension types that we'll get into. How suspension components move up and down, provide forward turning. Shock absorbers control spring forces. Okay, that's all your shock absorbers do. They control spring forces. They keep the car from just bouncing as you drive down the road. If you take the shocks off of your car, let's say you don't have a strut type suspension where the shock and the coil are all one piece. If you have separate shock absorbers on your car, let's say you took them off, all 4 of them, say you had one on each corner, right? And you drove down the road, your car would it would constantly be doing this as you were driving down the road. Shock absorbers dampen that spring motion, okay? And keep it from wearing the springs out, okay? All right. Bump stops are just those little rubber things that you saw in that one picture. If the suspension gets to its maximum travel, it will hit a rubber bump stop so you don't have metal to metal contact, okay? That's all that is. Okay. Your suspension system will provide a smooth ride, accurate steering, responsive handling, support for the vehicle, weight of the vehicle, acceptable tire wear. The frame is the part of the vehicle that is the main part. Supports all the running gear of the vehicle, meaning engine, transmission, that kind of stuff. And all of your suspension components. Different types of frames. Big trucks have full frames. Some of them will have a ladder type frame, which you'll see in this first picture here. They call it that because it has those connecting, we don't see the picture in here just yet. Okay, other types, Perimeter frame, that's just welded or riveted frame members around the entire perimeter of the body. A lot of vehicles now are subframe types or unit body, meaning it does not have a full metal frame underneath it, it just has a subframe, okay? The rest of it is just body construction that gives it the structure, okay? There's a typical truck frame. Excellent example of a ladder type frame, uses two side members connected by a cross member. All right. So the body's going to sit on there with the cab. If it's a pickup truck, it's going to sit on rubber bushings. Obviously, you don't want it to sit metal to metal, right? That would be horrible for truck for noise and for a terrible ride. So they have little rubber body mount cushions that mount the vehicle or the truck, whatever it is, to the frame. On unitized construction, the small frame members are for the support the engine suspension components. Some of them will attach those directly to reinforced sections of the body. You do not require a rear frame section. Unibody or unit body construction, those are just welded sections that create a platform that combines the body with the frame using a unit body construction. Those do not use a rear frame section, okay? They'll just have a front subframe. The platform. Vehicles all have what they call a platform, and all that is the basic size and shape of the vehicle. Various vehicles of different makes can share the same platform. That gives you some examples. These are common platforms for a car. Chevrolet Impala, Pontiac Grand Prix, Toyota Camry, Lexus, ES350, Buick LeSabre, Cadillac DTS. Same platform. All it means is same basic size and shape. All right. There's a thing called unsprung weight and sprung weight. You're going to have to know the difference in them, okay? Unsprung weight is anything that allows the wheel to move up and down. For best handling ride, the unsprung weight should be kept as low as possible. Types of suspension. Early suspension systems use a solid axle for front and rear wheels. Most of them today are IRS or independent rear suspension and front. Suspension spring serves two purposes: a buffer between the suspension and the frame. Each spring fastener transfers part of the vehicle weight to the suspension component that it rests on. You will probably never see one of these, but this is a solid I-beam axle with leaf springs. This was
I see those on like trailers and shit.
basically,
Like the garden
yeah,
trailers.
but they did actually use those on cars, believe it or not, not
okay.
cars, but trucks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I've seen somebody work on their leaf springs. The dude I told you with the red Corvette, he has a
Okay.
trailer like that. He took the
Okay.
top off and he
Yeah.
changed something. I don't know. I just remember seeing something like that.
Yeah, what he doing was servicing the wheel bearings, because typically
Yeah.
that's all those need. They really don't need any other type of service.
Got you.
Okay, on a solid axle vehicle, a lot of the older rear-wheel drive vehicles were solid axle. What they're telling you here is the solid axle is not near as good as the independent suspension. And they're going to show you why. When one wheel hits a bump or drops into a hole, both the right and left wheels are moved. Because both wheels are affected, the ride is often harsh and feels stiff. We saw this picture, independent front suspension used on a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Each wheel can hit a bump or hole in the road independently without affecting the opposite side. Okay, Hooke's Law, definition. Deflection, movement, or deformation of a spring is directly proportional to the applied force. What that means is, for example, if a spring is depressed 1 inch by weight of 400 pounds, it has a spring rate of 400 pounds per inch. Higher the spring rate, stiffer the spring. Here's your example. This spring was depressed 4 inches due to the weight of 2,000 pounds. That means the spring has a rate of 500 pounds per inch. Make sense?
Yeah.
Free height on that spring is 14 inches, let's say. Put 2,000 pounds on it, it is now 10 inches. So that's 500 pounds per inch. That would be the spring rate, okay? Deflection or movement of the spring is directly proportional to the applied force, that's all that is, okay? Coil springs are made of special spring steel
So,
wrapped in a helix shape.
so that'd be kind of like if you tied a rope to a bar, kind of left it loose, and you put force on it, it gets tighter. The more force you put, the tighter it gets. The more force you put, the tighter it gets. Something like that, except for a spring.
I'm not exactly sure what you were saying.
So, imagine you're tying a rope to like a bar in front of you, right?
Okay.
It has some slack. Let's say you put like a 10-pound weight on it. It gets pretty tight to the touch, so it's not slacky anymore. You put more weight on it, hold it in the same spot. It's way more tighter than what it was before. So the more weight you put, the more stiff it gets. Is that what you're saying, or?
For spring rate, you mean?
Yeah, is it similar to that?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
kinda.
I was just
So-
asking so I can get a better understanding.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's use our valve spring. Let's say this is a coil spring for your
Okay.
suspension. Okay. So if this, using that example, if this was a 500 pound per inch spring rate,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say this spring was 14 inches tall. Okay.
Okay.
Then you put 2,000 pounds on it,
Gotcha.
and it dropped 4 inches, meaning it's now 10 inches instead of 14.
Okay.
Okay. That's all that's telling you. That's just how they measure spring rate.
Okay.
How much will the spring compress based on the weight that's applied to it?
Okay.
Okay, the strength and characteristics of a coil spring depend on the coil diameter, the number of coils, the height of the spring, and the diameter of the spring coil that forms the spring. Spring rate is also called deflection rate, a value that reflects how much weight it takes to compress a spring a certain amount, which we saw just a minute ago. Frequency. Spring frequency is a value that reflects the speed at which a spring oscillates, bounces after it's released from compression or extension. Frequency, as we already know, is measured in cycles per second or hertz. Wheel rate. Depending on suspension design, springs are installed in a certain distance away from the wheel, which determines the wheel ratio or travel to the spring or wheel rate. Your coil spring mounting, usually installed in a spring pocket or spring seat, will have sometimes hard rubber or plastic cushions or insulators to keep it from being metal to metal. Most of the time, coil springs are coated with some sort of paint or epoxy to keep them from cracking or rusting. A scratch, a nick, or a pit caused by corrosion can cause a stress riser on the spring and lead to failure. All right, spring rate, determined by the diameter of the spring, the diameter of the steel used in it, the construction, number of coils, and the free height. Different types of springs. Okay, a constant rate spring compresses at the same rate regardless of the amount of weight that's put on it. This would be a constant rate spring, okay? So you see 100 pounds, drops an inch. Another 100 pounds, another inch. Another 100 pounds, another inch, right? That's a constant rate spring. It's going to drop 1 inch for every 100 pounds that's put on it, all right? Okay. Variable rate springs are a little bit different. They come in a variety of shapes. They compress more slowly as weight is applied. Two springs with different spring rate and length can provide the same ride height, even though a high rate spring will give a stiffer ride. So you don't necessarily have to change the ride height of the vehicle in order to change the feel of it. A stiffer spring will bounce at a higher frequency than a softer spring, which we don't have to worry too much about. Okay. The wheel and the arm act as a lever to compress the spring. The spring used on the top picture must be stiffer than the spring used on the strut type suspension on the bottom because the length of the lever arm is shorter. Okay, just showing you here the little spring seat cushion that the spring will sit on, so again, you don't have metal-to-metal contact wearing each other out and making noise. You ever heard of somebody cutting the coil springs on their car because they want to lower it?
Yeah.
Yeah, bad idea.
Wait, really?
Cutting the coil springs on the car to lower it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if you replace it with lowering springs
yeah. Do it the right way. Put the proper springs on it. They do make lowering springs for cars.
Yeah, they have coilovers where you can pretty much adjust the height too.
Mm-hmm.
But people get like a
That's too bloody,
specific clamp,
You said
put
what?
it on the
That's too blunt here,
suspension,
right, though.
and then like they tighten it.
That's no, you're thinking of static. Coilovers make it is the same as that. Static is no coils at all.
So what they're doing
It's
is
just
they're
frame.
compressing a couple of coils and the springs together.
That's what makes
These
it-
clamps, right? That lowers the car.
It keeps it, it's not good because it keeps putting pressure on the suspension, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll damage the spring. Kind of messes up your right height, right? Messes up your spring rate, messes up a lot of things. And if they lower it too much, it'll mess up the alignment too, so you'd have to have the alignment done again on it. Replacement spring is coated with some sort of corrosion preventive epoxy, spring, paint, something like that. Most of the time, they will have some sort of coating on. They won't be just bare metal. All right, this other one. Remember that picture we saw of the leaf spring?
Yeah.
Okay, we have another one of these that we'll do that's a leaf spring, but we'll wait on that one. Okay, leaf spring is just basically strips of metal, long, narrow strips of metal, spring steel. The ends are rolled into a loop to form the eyes. That's where the bolts would go through. They're held together by a center bolt, also called a centering pin. Let's see, do we have a leaf spring picture in here somewhere?
1399.
299. Yeah, okay. So leaf spring, basically it's just a bunch of steel bars really stacked together. One end of the leaf spring is mounted to a hanger. Bolt and rubber bushing is directly attached to the frame. The other end is attached to the frame with movable hangers called shackles, which you will see in the picture on 1398. See where it says hanger? That's where it's mounted to the front in the frame there. The back is mounted to that movable shackle because the spring changes length as it compresses, right? It's going to get kind of longer and shorter. It's got to have a way to move. That shackle allows it to move. Okay, some leaf springs are actually composite. They're made of a fiberglass reinforced epoxy plastic. Composite leaf spring has been used on production vehicles since the early 80s. The Corvette used those for quite a while for the rear suspension. Only it ran not the length of the car, but the other way, crossways in the back. It was kind of a weird setup, but leaf spring rate increases when the thickness increases or decreases as the length increases. Typical leaf spring, okay? Used on the rear of pickup truck, plastic insulator between them which allows it to move without creating wear or noise. picture for our next, drawing, identification that we'll do. Typical leaf spring installation. The longest one is called the main leaf, attaches to the frame through the shackle and the hanger. Held on by U-bolts. There's your centering pin or your center bolt here. This keeps the rear axle in alignment with that spring so it doesn't get messed up. If you break a center bolt or that gets off center, the rear axle will actually shift one way or the other, cause the car to dog track or the truck, whatever it is. Okay, this is showing you how your shackle works. So when leaf spring is compressed, the spring flattens out and becomes a little bit longer. Shackle allows for the lengthening. The rubber bushings are used in the ends of the spring to help isolate road noise traveling into the passenger compartment. All right, typical leaf spring suspension on a rear-wheel drive car. Obviously, you're going to have a shock absorber, leaf spring, the solid rear axle. Sometimes called a live rear axle because it's a driving axle, right? It's got the differential there. When the vehicle is loaded, the leaf spring contacts the section of the frame, shortens the effective length of the spring, which makes it stiffer. All right. You're going to find those on a lot of bigger vehicles, pickup trucks, vans, SUVs sometimes. This is just a part of the fiberglass reinforced epoxy type spring. This is the one that I was telling you they ran it side to side or transversely on the Corvette for the rear suspension. Okay, anybody heard of a torsion bar suspension? Don't see too many of those. What's a torsion bar suspension? Anybody know?
No.
No? Okay, that bar actually becomes the spring. And how it works is it's just a long steel bar and it will twist, but it resists the twisting, right? So it kind of works as a spring, which we'll see in a minute. It's similar to a spring that's a long, round, hardened steel bar. Similar to a coil spring, except that it's a straight bar. One is attached to the lower control arm, the front suspension, the other to the frame. Unlike other types of springs, torsion bars may be adjustable to correct ride height. So one of the cool things about a torsion bar is you can actually take a bolt that runs through the adjuster and loosen or tighten that bolt and it will raise or lower the vehicle. You can do it in a matter of minutes. Very easy to do. That is a torsion bar. It resists twisting and uses as a spring on some cars, many four-wheel drive pickups, SUVs. The larger the diameter or the shorter the torsion bar, the stiffer the bar. So that's what it would look like. It would run to the lower control arm, and then this is your adjuster back here that would be attached to the frame. And they have a bolt that goes through there, and all that does is either tighten it or loosen it, cause the vehicle to raise or lower. Like you see there. One end of the torsion bar attaches to the lower control arm, the other to an anchor that is adjustable. So this is your height adjustment bolt. So all you would have to do is tighten or loosen this bolt to change the ride height to the vehicle. Simple as tightening or loosening a bolt. Nothing to it. All right, suspension principles. All suspension systems must provide support, transverse side-to-side wheel support, longitudinal front-to-back wheel support. Two very important design factors are called anti-squat and anti-dive. Anti-squat refers to the reaction of the body during acceleration. Anti-dive refers to the force that causes the front of the vehicle to drop down while braking. Notice you hit the brake real hard, the nose of your car wants to dive, right? Okay, suspension system tries to control that. It also tries to control the squat when you accelerate. Okay? Okay. What's the spindle do?
It supports the wheel and attaches to the control arm.
Are you sure about that? Okay. Supports the wheel, attaches the control arm with ball joints usually. Control arm attaches the frame, the vehicle through the bushings, help isolate vibration, noise, and power. So, lower ball joint, upper ball joint, this is your spindle. This is where your wheel goes, right? Obviously your hub and bearing goes on there, then the wheel. Allows for turning, right? Pivots here and here. Some vehicles will have strut rods if it has a lower control arm that only has one mounting bushing. Because this will allow front to back movement. So you have to have a strut rod to control that front to back movement. As you can see, this is more like a A shape, right? This one has two mounting points, which won't allow that really to move that much, so that doesn't need any type of front to rear support. All right, steering knuckle provides two purposes: to join the suspension to the wheel, usually includes the spindle where the front wheel bearings are attached. Provides a pivot point between the suspension and the wheel. Knuckles are used with independent suspension at the wheels that steer the vehicle. The only knuckle that uses a cane pin is a steering knuckle on an I-beam or twin I-beam suspension, which you probably won't see anymore. That was pretty popular on older Ford trucks. All right, steering knuckle used on a long or short arm front suspension. That's what they call the SLA. Again, you probably won't see these anymore. They don't see too many kingpin suspensions anymore. That was just the pivot point for the steering knuckle. Okay, your control arms, upper and lower, most likely will have both, unless it has a strut, McPherson strut type suspension, which would become the upper control arm. Control arm is a suspension link that connects the knuckle or the wheel flange to the frame. One end of it attaches to the knuckle or wheel flange, generally with a ball joint or bushing. Opposite end of the arm attaches to the frame member. Usually pivots on a bushing. Okay, remember in that drawing they said this was the spindle?
Yep.
And this is the knuckle. So most of the time this is one piece. This is just where the bearing goes in the hub for your wheel, okay? The knuckle actually provides a point for the spindle and your pivot points for your steering. Okay, SLA suspension, what is it? What does SLA mean? Forgot already? Come on, man. What is an SLA suspension? Nobody knows?
No.
Come on, killing me.
What page?
I guess we're all sleeping, huh?
It's just a lot.
It is a lot, believe me, I know. There is so much to absorb or try to understand in this class. It's mind-boggling. I agree. However,
What page?
where is it? I don't know what page it's on. SLA, where is it? We found it yet?
Exactly, like, I don't remember hearing that.
Gotta be in here somewhere.
Short, long arm?
Yes, sir, there you go. What does that mean? Did you find it in the book? No? Well, somebody was listening. Okay, so what does that mean? What are they referring to?
Short, short arm.
Yeah, a short and a long arm, control arm suspension, right? SLA, right? The short arm's typically the top, long one's typically the bottom. It just means you got a short control arm and a long control arm, okay? Simple. Okay, what do your ball joints do? What's a ball joint and how does it work? What does it do?
They're like the joints in a person's shoulder.
Does what?
They're like the joints in a person's shoulder.
Kind of, yeah, uh-huh.
So
Yep.
it makes the suspension like, help it to help it move.
Yeah, it'll give it a pivot point for like your steering knuckle.
They can move up and down and side to side for steering.
It typically will just allow a pivot point. It shouldn't have really any play in it. It shouldn't like allow side to side movement.
I have a question on air suspension.
On air suspension?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it
we-
in the English chapter?
Yeah, we cover air suspension. We cover electronic suspension systems too.
Oh, so for some trucks, they have like a air suspension for like towing sometimes.
Yep.
And some of them like, they don't, it's not like a regular suspension. So like, you know, you hit the bump in the front, it's like your suspension so it's smooth, right?
Mhm.
And then the back's kind of rough, so like you hit a bump, it goes boom. Like, it's not as smooth. Is that the air suspension?
If you have a load on it and you have more air in the suspension, it's gonna make it a little stiffer, but yeah, that's why we do that. Like if you were towing, if you're carrying a load, stuff like that. And these electronic suspension systems that have like height sensors, let's say you have a truck and you put, let's say it just sits normal, almost kind of level, right? Now let's say you put a couple thousand pounds of something in the bed, it's kind of sagging in the back, right? And the electronic suspension system or leveling system, it will actually sense that with a height sensor, and then it will actually inflate that to bring it back up to normal height, so it's not sagging.
It's not good for the truck to be sagging now.
What's that?
Is it not good for the truck to be sagging now when you have a lot of weight on it?
Right. It's to get it back up to where it's supposed to be, right? So let's say this was your pickup truck, and you put a bunch of stuff in the bed, right? The electronic suspension or leveling system would sense that load was there, and it would inflate the air suspension and bring it back up to normal. So you weren't driving around with your tail dragging.
I got somewhat of a question.
Somewhat?
Yeah, it's a question, a comment at the same time.
Okay.
So my buddy, he has a mini truck, like a little Nissan mini truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses that for work.
Mhm.
But they have a concrete mixer, but what he does is while they're like at his where they get the concrete and everything from,
Uh-huh.
he'll put a tarp in the truck bed and fill his truck bed up with the liquefied concrete, cover it, drive to the spot, and then they just like pour it out there, because he does driveways and everything. And he says he doesn't give a fuck, because I've told him, like, you know, you're gonna fuck up your shocks, your
Mhm.
car's gonna be messed up later on.
Mhm. It
He
will.
was like, I don't care, I got this truck for like $500, it works fine. Even if I do mess it up, you know, putting money into fixing it
Right.
won't be the biggest deal.
Right.
Even if it's something that I don't want to fix, I can try and find another one. I'm like,
Right.
okay, rich guy. But
Like,
like, how
really,
bad
the only
would that
thing
really
that would
damage it?
probably do, unless he was really overloading it and started messing with the frame,
Uh-huh.
is it would just wear out the spring, which wouldn't be a big deal to fix. Put rear springs and shocks on it, it'd be fine.
So that's
Probably
the
wouldn't be a
worst?
big deal to fix,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, your ball joints. They're actually a ball and socket joint. Allows front wheels to move up and down as well as side to side for steering, okay? Compression loaded and tension loaded, two different types of ball joints. Ball joints compressed into the control arm by the weight of the vehicle. On a compression loaded, on a tension loaded, the weight of the vehicle tends to pull the ball joint back into the control arm by tension. Ball joints will provide the freedom of movement necessary for steering and suspension movements. Okay? Ball joints, right? Upper, lower. Same here. This is a McPherson strut suspension. This is pretty popular. Only has a lower ball joint. How come it only has a lower ball joint? This is a modified strut suspension. This just means that the spring is off board, but it still has a strut here. The strut becomes your upper ball joint. It allows that pivot point. Anybody replaced struts on a car before? What's that?
You said replace what?
The struts on a car before? No? They're actually pretty easy.
I've been there while somebody did it, but I didn't touch anything.
Yeah. Typically not a hard job. You gotta pull the wheel, obviously, and you got a couple of bolts in that goes through that steering knuckle, and then you got typically 3 on the top, under the hood. Typically not too hard to change, but
Or, so, like I told you, we're building like a race car, drift car type thing. Are those the control arms that you can get extended so the steering goes a lot further, or what is that? So, like, if you want the steering to, like, go like 90 degrees that way instead of just the 45.
I don't know why you would do that, but.
So you can get a sharper angle when you're drifting.
Really?
Yeah. Because we did that. I forgot what I think it was the control arms.
I'm not sure about that. What kind of car was it? You said it was BMW?
Yeah. It's the E39M5.
I'm not sure what they were doing for that. Obviously, you would have to extend the stop, because normally you have a steering stop, the wheel's only gonna turn a certain amount, right? You turn the steering wheel all the way, it's gonna stop at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're doing something to allow it to turn farther, I'm assuming. I don't know what that would be.
It's okay. So what he took off, what I'm saying, I think it's the control arms. What he took off is pretty long, but it's the ones that we put back on were pretty longer, and there's an extension to it where you can put the arms further out, and then on both sides, instead of where it's supposed to be. So the further out it is, the further it can steer.
Like this arm, you mean?
No, it's
A steering arm?
something like that. Let me see if I can.
Maybe it's a steering arm.
Sounds like that would be it. It makes the most sense.
It's probably it's got a rack and pinion front steering, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, wait.
Okay.
I got to see. I'm gonna probably go over there today because we're finishing up the paint.
Okay.
I'll see if I can.
Yeah.
Oh wait, his tires are off right now because we finished painting, so he'll probably put them on. Or they're probably already on. But I'll see if I can just steer it real quick and just take a picture of it.
Yeah.
See if I can take a picture under
Yeah,
there and
yeah.
show you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay, on your ball joints, the upper ball joint is the load carrying in this type of suspension. because the weight of the vehicle is applied through the spring, upper control arm, to the ball joint to the wheel. Lower control arm is the lateral length. The lower ball joint is called the follower. Okay? This is the load carrying ball joint. Okay? This is where your spring is. This is just the follower. All right? On this one, which is the load carrying ball joint? Look where the spring is. Top one and bottom one. Bottom one, right? Yeah. Because this, the spring, this is your frame, right? So the spring is here. The spring is actually putting the load on the lower control arm. So this is your load carrying ball joint. This would be the follower ball joint in this type of suspension. All ball joints, whether tension or compression loaded, have a bearing surface between the ball socket and the stud. Those are the two types of ball joints, compression loaded and tension loaded. Strut rods, purpose of them is to provide forward, backward support to the control arms. Usually only on the lower and only if it has one mounting point. Strut rods are also called tension or compression rods, or simply TC rods. Tension rods attached to the front wheels, to the body, in the front wheels of the body or frame. Compression rods attached to the body frame behind the wheel. There you go. There's a picture for you. Strut rod. You notice that lower control arm only has one mounting point. This one goes from the lower control arm to the frame in the back. So what's the purpose of this strut rod right here? And what would happen if that was missing? If it didn't have it? What would be the problem?
Nah, shoot.
What is the purpose of a strut rod? Whether it attaches from the front or from the back to the lower control arm, what's the purpose of the strut rod?
To keep it stabilized.
Yeah, to stabilize the control arm, right? To keep it from being able to move front or back. Let's say this was your mounting surface for your wheel, right? And this was your lower control arm, your knuckle was here. Keeps that control arm from allowing the wheel to move this way, right? So it just strengthens it, just gives it support, okay?
Just in case, you know, like, it doesn't happen, this is pretty much what it looks like, right here. It's an angle kit, but what it is like, it makes you be able to steer a lot more than what you usually can. So like, if you e-brake into a corner, you can carry that angle for a lot longer. Instead of just, you know, slightly steering it and then you're smashing something, you have more control of the, you know, angle.
I
you
got
put
you.
it.
Definitely gives the wheels more travel, doesn't it?
Yeah. It looks broken, but it's not.
It does, yeah. Because normally you look at that and you go, oh, you got problems.
Yeah.
All right. What is a stabilizer bar? You know what a strut rod is now, right? Strut rod is to support lower control arm. It only has one mounting point. It controls front and back movement of the wheel. All right? Got it?
Yeah.
What's a stabilizer bar?
It's the one that's up and down.
What's that?
The one that's up and down.
No.
No.
Stabilizer bar runs horizontally.
I think I
Do we
changed
still
that.
have the, was there,
The purpose of the stabilizer bar is to prevent excessive body roll while cornering and to add stability while driving over rough road surfaces.
okay, your body roll, okay? Keeps your car from turning like a ship when you go around a corner, right? Controls that body roll, so you can go around a corner without the car leaning or swaying, okay? Sometimes called a sway bar, okay, or anti-roll bar. It operates by twisting the bar if one side of the suspension moves up or down in relation to the other while cornering, hitting bumps, or driving over uneven road surfaces. Prevent excessive body roll while cornering. Add stability when driving over rough roads. They are extremely important. If you disconnected a front stabilizer bar in a car, you'd immediately notice the car would handle terrible. It would just kind of go around a corner like a boat. It would just kind of roll when you.
Did you flip because of that?
What's that?
Did you flip because of that?
Can you
No.
flip? No.
No. Well, I mean,
Depending.
I guess you could if you were really, really taking a fast, hard corner or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some supercars can take faster turns.
They're lower. A lot lower.
What did you say?
Like supercar, supercars,
Uh-huh.
high-end vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Why can they take turns more fast too?
Well, a couple of reasons, because the suspension is set up for it, and they have a low center of gravity, as far as they usually is high off the ground, right? So, yeah, it's just the suspension, the way the alignment's set up, and obviously good stabilizer bars and good lower center of gravity. Stabilizer bar in this picture, where is it?
Right there at the front. It's that little bent down.
This guy right here, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna attach to lower control arm through a link kit. So what happens when you go around a corner, one side raises, one side lowers, right? This bar keeps it, this bar doesn't wanna twist, but it tries to twist it when you go around a corner. So that bar just keeps the suspension from doing this,
Okay.
it eliminates the body roll. So, let's say your car came with a 1-inch front stabilizer bar. And it handled pretty good, but it still had a little bit of body roll. And let's say you went to an aftermarket suspension company and you got an 1.5-inch front stabilizer bar put on there. Would you notice a difference?
Yeah.
Let's say you took it off. Would you notice a difference?
Big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Would the 1.5 inch be more stable or less stable?
More.
Okay, good.
It'd give you better cornering, flatter cornering, less body roll, yeah.
Gotcha.
Because a thicker bar is gonna be less resistant to twist, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that kind of shows you how it works. As the body of the vehicle leans, the stabilizer bar is twisted. Force exerted by the stabilizer bar counteracts the body lean. And they are mounted using a bushing kit or link kit to the lower control arm. Just a bushing showing the stabilizer bar with bushing where it mounts to the frame.
I thought that was a heated up bar going through something.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't
Painted
it?
it?
Purpose stabilizer bar to prevent body roll and cornering, add stability and driving over rough roads. Shock absorbers, what do?
Absorb shock.
They absorb shock. Okay, your springs on your car would wear out in a couple thousand miles if you didn't have shocks. And again, you'd be driving down the road like this, constantly going. Because the car would just bounce. You ever drive down the freeway and you get a little whip in the road and your car's kind of doing this?
Going down.
It would just do that all the time if the shocks were worn out or missing or whatever.
Coming down MLK over here, right there at right after Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple bumps on that road. As soon as you hit it, like you go down the hill, it's just up and down, up and down, up and down till you get to that pool. It's
And if you hit one of those in the road, let's say you're driving down the freeway, sometimes they have those little things on the freeway or
Yeah.
whatever where where the road's kind of uneven.
mhm.
If your car keeps doing this, the shocks are worn out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
It might do it a few times, you'll get a, but it should stabilize pretty quick. If it keeps
yeah,
doing
never
that,
mind. Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
yeah, if it keeps doing it,
So you mean after you leave and it keeps doing it?
yeah,
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm good. Yeah.
yeah, then the shocks are worn out.
Have you ever driven to Utah before?
Yeah.
From here? Okay, so
Uh-huh.
when you pass the speedway,
Mm-hmm.
there's one road, I think like right before the Maverick gas station.
Yeah, up by Apex.
Yeah, right past Apex. I don't know if it's because of the truck we were in, because it's my last job. We were in a big
Uh-huh.
ass truck and went to Utah. But the road, every time we go on it, like, I mean, obviously it's a big truck. The shocks are gonna fuck up. There's a lot of weight to it. But we're driving. It's just almost the whole way there. It's like it's
Yeah.
not even like bumpy anymore because you can feel when you're actually
Yeah.
hitting the bumps.
Right,
Because
right,
you're going up and down, and then once you get on that smooth road, it's just
right.
coasting and going up and down. Like I feel like I'm in a really weak lowrider.
Right. Shock absorbers will control your spring motion, okay? To dampen and control the motion of vehicle springs. Most of them are direct acting because they're connected between the vehicle frame, the body, and the axles. Operation, how does a shock absorber work? Anybody know?
Good, so
What's that? What's the principle that a shock absorber works on? How does it work?
Movement of the vehicle is supported by springs without a dampening device. Oh, that's the pictures. The function of any shock absorber is to dampen the movement or action of a spring, similar to using a liquid, or control the movement of a weight on a spring.
Okay. Operates on the principle of forcing fluid through a hole or an orifice. Okay? That's how it works. You ever heard of gas socks? Gas charged socks? Anybody ever heard of those? Those are pretty popular. Never heard of them?
Never heard
Huh.
of it.
Okay. Gas charged shocks. Most shocks if you look on newer cars are gas charged. All that pressure does with that gas in there, it just prevents air pockets from forming in the shock absorber as the oil passes through the passages in the shock. Okay? Air shocks or struts. Air inflatable shock absorbers or struts are used in the rear of vehicles to provide proper ride height when carrying heavy loads. Air springs, that's a different thing. Basic air spring consists of a rubber air chamber, generally closed at the bottom by a piston fitted into a control arm or by a strut shock absorber. Coil over shocks. Those are used to force an external coil spring to boost the performance of basic shock absorber. Basically, a coilover shock is just a shock absorber with a spring on it.
Hmm.
Some of them are adjustable though.
Yeah.
Okay? Movement of the vehicle supported by the springs without a dampening device, obviously there's a big difference there. The principle that they're showing you here is, let's say you had a weight on a spring here, right? And you were doing this and it was just going, and then you did the same thing in water. It's not gonna move very much, right? Kind of like the difference of you trying to run
In a pool.
in a pool or just run in the,
Yeah.
through the air, right? You're gonna run a lot faster through the air than you are in a swimming pool, right? Shock absorbers work the best when they're mounted as close to the spring as possible. Shock absorbers are mounted straight up and down, offer the most dampening. When a vehicle hits a bump, the suspension moves upward. This is called compression or jounce. Rebound is when the coil spring, torsion bar, spring, whatever, returns to its original position. Cutaway drawing of a typical double tube shock absorber. You can see compression valve, compression chamber, reserve chamber, rebound intake, rebound chamber. Basically just forces oil through a little orifice or a hole. Notice position of the intake and compression valve during rebound, extension, and then compression. Probably not gonna do you much good there. All right. Oil flow through a deflected disc type piston valve. Deflecting disc can react rapidly to suspension movement. For example, if a large bump is hit at a high speed, the disc can deflect completely, allow the suspension to reach its maximum joust distance while maintaining the control of the movement. On electronic suspension system, they have actually electronic shock absorbers, where they have a fluid inside there with these particles in them, and they apply a voltage to it, and it will change the viscosity instantly of that oil in the shock. So it'll give you a real-time damping effect. So those are, sometimes they call them MR shocks or magnetorheological shocks. We'll get to those too in another point. All right, we talked about the gas charge shocks, right? Basically, the pressure of the gas in there is just to keep air bubbles from forming in the shock absorber during operation. This is an air shock absorber. It just has, an air shock is just a regular shock absorber with an air chamber, okay? You can raise or lower the vehicle based on the air pressure. This is an air spring. As you can see, there's no coil spring there. It's actually an airbag, basically. Anybody ever see those old Lincolns driving down the road that are all, look like they're all lowered? Most of them do.
Talking about the SUVs?
No, they're just a regular Lincoln, like a four-door Lincoln Town Car, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the older ones, 90s. Most of them driving down the road all looking like they're all lowered because they got this air suspension on them, and these air springs go bad, nobody wants to fix them, so the cars all look like they're lowered. Okay, always check the trunk forward cutoff switch if it's a vehicle is equipped with an air suspension. Before hoisting or towing the vehicle, usually you don't have to worry about that. Some air springs are auxiliary units to the coil spring, which are used to control ride height, while the coil spring is the weight-bearing unit.
I forgot they still made those.
What's that?
I forgot they still made Lincolns.
Oh, yeah.
Never seen them.
I've always wanted a Lincoln Continental.
Yeah, Finley has a Lincoln dealer in the auto world.
They ain't got no Continentals though.
Coil over shock, standard shock with a spring wrapped around it, increases stiffness and or takes some of the carrying weight off the spring. Okay, shock absorber with a spring around it. What are remote reserve shocks or remote reservoir shocks? You've probably seen those on off-road vehicles, people that like to spend a lot of money on their trucks, look like that. Shock absorber on the right has a fluid reservoir, and the shock is on the left. So why would they do that? Why would they keep the fluid off board on the shock absorber? It's almost like a dry sump oiling system. What would be the purpose of that?
Of it being separated?
Yeah, why would you have a separate reservoir for the fluid for the shock?
So it can circulate?
What's that?
So it can circulate? Or is it hydraulic, like, so there's like air compression and, you know, when it goes down, it sucks it out, pushes it back?
Okay. Normally what they do that for is to keep the fluid cool. So during a lot of off-road, off-road gets a lot of,
Yeah.
right? So it would keep the fluid from heating up because it's in a separate reservoir.
Got you.
All right. Strut. Strut is a sturdy shock absorber. It's also a structural component to the suspension. McPherson strut is very popular. They use that on a lot of vehicles. There's a coil spring that surrounds the strut casing, transfer the weight of the body to the wheel. It also has a bearing that allows it to rotate. The vertical axis becomes your upper ball joint, basically. Modified strut, different types, just the strut does not have the spring as part of the assembly. The spring is off board on a modified strut. Most of those suspensions are coil spring mounted on the lower control arm. Modified strut system on the rear suspension is actually a structural part of the assembly. Okay, suspension bumpers, all those do is prevent metal-to-metal contact if your suspension happens to travel to its maximum compression, okay? Bump stop is just a rubber or a foam bumper used to absorb, isolate suspension from the frame of the body. There's one right there that looks like it's had it, needs to be replaced. Was most likely caused by a defective shock absorber. Okay. You ever seen a shock absorber leak oil? No? If you're checking out a car and you see that the shock is wet, what would you do?
Not get it.
No, I
What's-
get it.
You do what?
Not get it. You're taking out the car.
Not get it?
I've been like buying it, I don't wanna,
Does it mean it's
I've been like buying a car.
Oh. No, I'm talking about if you were checking a car out for a customer and you found out that one of the shocks or maybe two of them or whatever had oil on them.
Recommended shots.
Recommend new shocks? Yeah, okay. A little bit of seepage is okay, but if you actually see a drip or actually see oil, then it's actually leaking and should be replaced.
not what makes it bumpy, right?
Yep, it will.
What's it? Tell me so.
Yeah,
Tell me so.
you do it first, I'll do it next.
At that point, just come with me. In my opinion. My opinion. Watch it. Shut up, Nicky.
So your buddy dresses that BMW E35?
839, and yeah,
39?
Yeah. We haven't been to a track in a minute, but when we go to the track, we go to Apple Valley.
Where?
Apple Valley.
I never heard of it before.
It's
Don't
a
they have
drift
one at the
track,
Motor
like right,
Speedway?
huh?
Don't they have one at the Motor Speedway too?
Yeah, but you gotta what's it called? Okay. So the best way to put it is the track in Apple Valley. It's a lot better. They actually have decent cornering. The one up there, it's really long, and those are made for more like high speed cars, like real like D1 or FD drift cars. This one out here is for like
Just for like tractors.
cheaply built drift cars and everything like that, because entries on the ones at the speedway are really fucking long, and you can only really go over there if you're practicing for a team or if you're renting it out for the whole day, which is crazy expensive over there.
You can rent out.
Yeah, that's why they do Vegas drift events. They rent it out, and then everybody just brings their cars up, pay for admission, pay to get their car on the track, blah 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 blah. So they're pretty much renting it out so people can pay them to go drift, pretty much giving their money back, and then they can get a bunch of extra money from letting people watch it. But Apple Valley, it's only like $5 to go on the track. Out here, it's like $45 to go on the track because you have to sign an insurance waiver saying I'm liable for everything that happens to me, blah blah blah. So it's,
I went over there for a drift and it was like a lot of fast cars like checking the
Mhm.
corner at like 95.
yeah, you're gonna see those more at the speed track. But Apple Valley is open anytime, every day, whatever. Unless there's like weather conditions that they're not gonna allow people to drift on, you're not gonna go over there. Apple Valley racetrack is like outside of small town, so nobody gives a fuck. Everyone there that lives in Apple Valley knows what's happening, and they know that they just don't give a fuck. It's just a really small town. Half of them out there go there anyway just to watch, if they don't have their own car. There's actually a lot of like YouTubers that go out there and everything too. I've met a couple of them.
Where is it at?
California, Apple Valley, California. It's literally like right past the border.
Oh, that's in California.
Hmm.
Oh, in California.
Yeah. It's damn near straight desert.
Hmm?
It's damn near straight desert. But you'll see a lot of people go there, like TJ Hunt, fucking Justice Six,
No, I think I've seen it.
Yacht,
I think I've
Limit. What's some motherfucker's name? The Asian dudes in California, Limitless, something like that. I don't know. I forgot their name. But yeah, it's a lot of different YouTubers that go out there. That's how I heard of it. He's already known of it. I heard of it, and I brought it up to him. I was like, I already live there. I'm like, why you ain't tell me? So that's how I started going with him. But I've been there like 2 or 3 times. It's pretty fucking cool out there. Only when it's hot, it's fucked up. You gotta bring your own food, snacks. We've never stayed overnight, but a lot of people sleep in their trailers and stay overnight and go the next morning. Like we'll go there real early, leave later on in the afternoon. I actually think I have some videos of us drifting it, but out here, like just on the road.
Learned nothing from this chapter.
I learned some. I'm just stuck on 6.
Okay, I'm guessing we're done with that.
Yes.
I had to, put up some more things here. Okay. Center bolt. What type of spring is it used on?
Is it all of the above?
No,
It's coil.
no.
Leaf. B.
Center bolt, leaf spring. Now, these are things you gotta remember, they will show up on tests.
Gotcha.
Center bolt, leaf spring. It centers the rear axle on the spring. Okay?
Oh, next. Number 2, what term describes the weight of the vehicle with all fluids filled but no passengers or cargo? C.
No.
A.
Curb weight, yes. The weight of the vehicle with all the fluids, but no passengers or cargo.
Number 3, technician A says a vehicle with less unsprung better handling. Technician B says a vehicle with a tire assembly are considered spare. Which technician is correct? Technician B.
Negative.
Is it A? Because
Less unsprung weight will have better handling.
yeah, it wouldn't be
Technician B says the tire and wheel assembly are considered sprung weight. They're
Yeah,
not
they would-
unsprung weight.
yeah, they would be considered sprung weight because that's what the spring is on and that's holding it up.
Right. Mhm.
The spring is really hard to control the vehicle. But
Is it shock absorber?
Crazy.
Is it
Someone's
A?
birthday, yes, Deborah.
A?
I'm sorry.
More
4, is that where we're at?
Yeah.
4.
4, okay. What is a structural part of the vehicle?
A.
I'll put D.
D is the answer, yeah. The McPherson strut is actually a structural part of the vehicle. All right.
5.
Focal points are considered to be unsprung weight. Put wheels and tires. C.
That is correct.
Technician A says that most modern vehicles have independent front suspensions. Technician B said that no vehicle has an independent rear suspension. Which technician is correct? I'll put D. Neither.
You put B, or C, or D, or which one?
Neither.
D.
D for dog.
Oh, D, no, D is not incorrect.
Alright. Okay, I got A.
A?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Most vehicles have independent front suspension. Almost every vehicle has independent front suspension. In fact, 99% of them do.
What term describes the basic shape and size of a vehicle? Is it wheelbase?
Nope.
Platform.
Platform. And just so you know, on question number 6, he says no vehicle has independent rear suspension. Get your Camaro up on the rack and look at it. It has independent rear suspension. Okay? Platform for number 7. Okay.
8.
8.
That's you.
Yep.
You.
I just read the last one.
Who?
That's you.
Oh yeah. Technician A says that each coil spring is specifically engineered to be installed on one particular side of the vehicle. Technician B says that the rubber spring pockets prevent excessive noise. Which technician is correct?
B.
Okay, yes, the spring pockets, rubber spring pockets help prevent excessive noise. Coil spring, specifically engineered to be installed on one particular side of the vehicle. I have never seen a left and a right coil spring, but I'm gonna say B for that, but,
Okay.
Could they be talking about like how the back coil springs are different from the front?
well, I would guess they were talking about that if it said in one particular end of the vehicle, meaning front to back, but this says side. So, even though the answer sheet says both, I'm not sure that that's actually right. But, it says 1395 is our reference page, so let's see. Note that each of the horse springs on this vehicle are unique. The higher spring raised on the left. Okay, so it is both of them.
Both
Yep.
of them.
Okay, you know what? That makes sense now that I think about it. You know why? Think about it. The left side of the car is always a little bit heavier than the right side.
Because we're sitting.
Because the left side always has somebody sitting in it,
Yeah.
right? Because even if there's nobody with you, you're sitting there, right?
Yeah.
You got the steering column, you got the steering gear, you got the brake pedals. The left side of the car is always heavier. So yeah, that does make sense. Okay. C, okay? Just wanted to make sure I wasn't thinking wrong, and I was.
Okay, 9, definition A says that constant rate spring has the same
Deflection rate.
deflection rate throughout its entire range of compression. Definition B says that some coil spring have different diameter at the top and the bottom of the spring. Which definition is correct? Is it both?
Yep. If it's a constant rate spring, it has the same deflection rate throughout its entire range of compression. Remember we saw that before? If it's a constant rate spring and you put 100 pounds on it and it drops an inch, you put another 100 pounds on it, it's going to drop another inch. Another 100, it's going to drop another inch. Constant rate. Some do have different diameters at the top and the bottom. All right.
Both, yeah.
Yes, both. Uh-huh.
What's like the strength of the dirt from the body to unit body vehicle? I put A.
A is right.
Shape.
Shape of the assembly provides the strength.
Mm. More questions?
What are we?
No, we got pretty close to the end. I don't know if we're
Okay. What are we doing? Drifting?
maybe.
Yeah. Okay, number 1. Torsion bars. What do you know about them?
They go like this.
Yeah. Okay, let's see how you answer this question.
Two technicians are discussing torsion bars. Technician A says that many torsion bars are adjustable to allow for ride height adjustment. Technician B says that torsion bars are usually marked left and right and should not be switched side to side. Which technician is correct?
Height. What does height have to do with it?
Our torsion bar is
Would it be B?
adjustable to change ride height.
That's the
The springs.
shocks, the coils. Wouldn't it be B? Oh shit.
Is it B?
I think A is right.
Well, if you put you guys' answers together, then you're right.
On both?
Both.
Okay?
How does A? How does A? Yeah.
How does A work?
Yeah.
How are torsion bars adjustable for ride height?
Yes.
Okay, let's look. Page 1400 and 1401.
201.
So, let's see here. What can we use for an example here? let's say this was a torsion bar, this push rod, and this was a control arm that it goes into, right? So this is the adjuster back here, it's got a bolt here, right? And it will change the tension on this. So if you twist this one way, if you twist it this way, it tries to pull it this way, right? So this would raise the vehicle, this would lower the vehicle, okay? You're just twisting a bar here, and it's acting as the spring. Okay, this would be your lower control arm, okay?
Yeah. Right here, next to the picture, figure 116-26. A torsion bar resists twisting and is used as a spring on some cars and many four-wheel drive pickup trucks and sport utility vehicles. So it kind of acts like a spring.
Exactly. So yes, they're adjustable for ride height, and yeah, they should not be switched from right to left. Bump stop.
What's the purpose of bump stops?
Is it
Smooth road
See?
shocks.
Bump stop. It's a rubber bumper. What are they for?
To raise the
See?
vehicle body,
To do what?
to raise the vehicle body.
is it C?
It's a stop.
Is
Think
it-
about what a stop does. It'll only let the suspension travel so far, so it doesn't have metal-to-metal contact.
So is it D?
Isolate the suspension from the frame.
Oh. I was thinking C.
Okay. We did 3. All right. Let's see about this guy. Technician A says regular replacement shock absorbers will raise the rear of a vehicle that is sagging down. Yes or no?
Regular replacement shock absorbers.
Yes.
Yes? Or do they have to be a special type?
You have a vehicle that's sagging in the rear a little bit, right? Yeah. And you change the shocks, and you just put the regular replacement shocks on it. It will correct that, yes or no?
Yes.
No! Has nothing to do with it. You can take the shocks off of your car, and it will ride exactly the same spot it did before. Doesn't change a thing. All the shock absorber does is dampen the spring's motion, okay? Technician B says replacement springs will be required to restore the proper ride height. Yes, they will. Okay? Where's the load carrying ball joint on this picture?
The low?
B.
B, bottom one.
Okay,
Well,
B,
load,
yep.
load.
Technician adjusting air shocks. Number 6.
Technician A says that air is forced through small holes to dampen the ride. Technician B says that air shocks are conventional hydraulic shock absorbers with an airbag to control vehicle ride height. Is it air or is it liquid?
This is liquid reservoir. Air shocks.
Moves dampen the ride. Air shocks.
We got 2 guys talking about air shocks. One of them says air is forced through small holes to dampen the ride. No, air is never forced through the hole. An air shock is just a regular shock with an airbag to control ride height. Okay, B. Okay,
What term describes?
we did that one. The owner of a pickup wants to cut the coil springs to lower the vehicle.
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
Fine.
Technician today says the ride will be harsher than normal if the springs are cut.
Yeah, it's true.
That is a big fact.
Right?
He says that the springs could be damaged, especially if cutting torch is used to cut the springs.
Both.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's damaged if it's cut, period.
That one we did that
We
one.
did that one, and what about this?
Automotive coil springs have the same number of coils. Technician B says coil spring spacers can cause damage to the spring. A. No, neither one of
Yeah.
them are.
A says all
Yeah,
automotive coils.
All springs have the same number of coils? Not a chance.
and spacers can't damage the spring.
Coil spring spacers, can they damage the spring? Yep.
Why do they have them on coilovers?
What's that?
They have them on some coilovers. You can raise the spring. That's how you make the adjusted height.
They're talking about those spacers, those little block spacers you wedge in between the coils.
Oh, okay, never mind. I
Those-
think you're talking about the ones that go from the
No,
bottom. You
no,
can push
no.
it up. Okay, never mind then. I was like,
Negative.
how does that fucking work?
Okay.
You telling me I'm buying something damaged?
No. No. All right. We're close enough to lunch. Let's just go ahead and take off now. We're not gonna be able to do anything worthwhile in 5 minutes, so. Come back in 20 minutes.